My name is Sapphira Lennox. I am 31 years old. Last night, I saw something that shook me to my very core. I watched my younger brother's life feel like it exploded, right in front of me, on a shiny glass table in a big conference room. On the door of that room was my name. My name. 3 years ago, my brother told my parents something that hurt me deeply. He said that if I came to New Year's dinner, he would not walk through the front door. My parents, instead of standing up for me, chose him. They chose him every year after that. I wasn't given a seat at the table. No plate had my name. Instead, I got a carefully written group text. It said something like, "Let's keep the peace. Liv, why don't you eat somewhere else tonight?" So I ate takeout alone in my apartment, pretending that it didn't hurt. Pretending that my heart wasn't breaking into pieces. But while they were passing around glasses of champagne, laughing, toasting my brother's bright future, I was quietly building something bigger than any of them could ever imagine. I worked in silence. I signed papers quietly. I moved money quietly. I planned quietly. Until one day, the girl who worked too much became the woman whose signature decided who got hired and who didn't even get a second interview. This morning, my brother walked into my company headquarters for the most important interview of his life. He wore the same confident, cocky attitude he had when he told me I wasn't allowed at New Year's dinner. He thought I was just another manager sitting in on the panel. Then HR turned to him, smiled, and said, "Before we begin, I'd like you to meet our CEO." It was me. I was the CEO. He spun around, our eyes met, and for the first time in my life, his face went completely pale. His confident swagger disappeared. I could see the color drain from his face. "Before I tell you what happened next, I want to ask you something. What time is it where you are? And where in the world are you reading this? I want to see how far this story can travel. How far can it reach?" If you ask my parents how all of this started, they will probably tell you it was just a misunderstanding. That it was a mistake that somehow lasted for years. That's how it is in Chicago. We wrap cruelty in polite words. We serve it with a smile and a casserole. The year my brother first banned me from New Year's dinner, my mother was standing in our old kitchen stirring her famous cranberry sauce in a chipped white saucepan she refused to throw away. I wasn't there, but I can picture it perfectly because I had watched that scene my whole childhood. My mother makes traditions look holy. My father was hovering nearby with a glass in his hand, ready to agree with whatever would make the night quiet. I remember the phone call like a recording I have played over and over 1,000 times. It was December 30th, and I was at my tiny desk in a shared office downtown. Around me were half-charged laptops, burnt coffee, and other people working on their small businesses. My mother's name flashed on the screen. I answered, already bracing myself for the usual small talk about how often I was working and how thin I sounded over the phone. "Hey, Mom," I said. But she didn't bother with a greeting. Her voice was syrupy sweet, but tight at the edges. "Liv," she said, "your brother thinks it will be less awkward if you sit this one out this year. You know how stressed he is with his MBA. He wants to focus." I repeated slowly, "He thinks, or you all decided that for him?" On the other end of the line, I heard the slight clatter of a spoon hitting a pot, the quiet hum of the television, and a long silence. The kind of silence that says, "We all talked about this without you." Then my father's voice came in, low and tired, like he had already picked his side. "Your brother is under a lot of pressure, Sapphira. Scholarships, internships, expectations. Don't make this about you. It's just one dinner. Just one dinner." As if the point of the night wasn't literally family. As if I hadn't spent years bending myself into shapes that took up less space so nobody could accuse me of ruining the mood. But the real breaking point had come a few weeks earlier. Torian had emailed me an ethics paper for his MBA program. The subject line said, "Just a quick polish." But the paper was almost word for word copied from a blog I had read years ago. He had changed a few names, swapped a few sentences, but the structure was identical. When I called him out, he laughed. "You're dramatic, Liv. Everyone does this. Just rewrite a couple of paragraphs. You're better at this stuff anyway." I refused. I told him it was cheating. If he wanted the degree, he had to do the work. He got quiet. Then he got mean. "You're just jealous. Mom and Dad are proud of me for once. You've always had it easy. Good grades, good jobs. This is my shot. You could help, but you'd rather watch me fail." That night, he must have gone downstairs and told our parents his version of the story. That I was withholding help out of spite, that I was trying to sabotage him. By the time my mother called about New Year's, the story was already cemented. Torian wasn't the one crossing lines. I was the one making everything difficult. So let me get this straight. I said into the phone, my voice trembling even though I tried to keep it flat. I say no to cheating, and the consequence is that I don't get to see my family on the one night of the year we're all supposed to be together? My mother sighed the way she does when she thinks I'm being unreasonable. You know how you two are, she said. There's always tension. Your father and I just want a peaceful night. Torian said he won't come if you are there. Can't you be the bigger person? There it was. That phrase that had been used against me since childhood. Be the bigger person. Translation: quiet yourself. Swallow it. Make everyone else comfortable while you disappear a little more. That first New Year's, I agreed. I told myself it was temporary, that I was doing it for the sake of peace, that it was mature to step back. I microwaved leftover pasta in my tiny apartment, set my phone on the table, and told myself I didn't care when the group photos started rolling in. In picture after picture, my parents stood beside Torian, arms around him, smiling like their world was finally aligned. My name showed up in the captions, not even a wish you were here. After that, it got easier for them. The next December, there was no discussion, just a casual text from my mom. We're doing a small thing this year. Torian invited some friends. It might be better if you make your own plans. We'll do something just for us another time. Another time never came. By the third year, being uninvited wasn't a shocking betrayal anymore. It was a tradition. Some families passed down recipes. Mine passed down in silence. Tell me honestly, if your own family put you on the permanent blacklist just to protect the comfort of the golden child, would you keep showing up with gifts and apologies? Or would something in you quietly start building a world where their approval didn't matter anymore? By the third year of being banned from New Year's dinner, I stopped lying to myself about how much it hurt. No more pretending it was just a night. No more telling friends I was too busy or not really into holidays. The truth was simple and ugly. My family had decided their version of peace did not include me. But something else had also changed by then. I wasn't the same woman they'd quietly pushed out of the frame 3 years earlier. Bridgepoint Capital, the company they thought was some big firm downtown, had started as a scrappy experiment in a shared office above a bar where the music downstairs rattled our ceiling tiles every Friday. Back then, I was just another over-caffeinated founder with a slide deck and a dream. I slept on friends' couches, wore the same blazer to every pitch meeting, and learned how to say, "We're pre-revenue but growing fast," with a straight face. Investors told me I was impressive for someone so young, and then gave money to men who recycled the same ideas with worse numbers. I learned to hear no without believing it. While my parents were bragging about Torian's GPA at every family barbecue, I was working 18-hour days with a tiny team, trying to build a platform that would let regular people invest small amounts into local businesses instead of just giant funds they'd never see. Money was tight. I maxed out credit cards, sold my car, and lived off instant noodles and vending machine coffee more times than I want to admit. My parents never asked about the details. They just said, "We don't really understand what you do, but it's good for you," and then switched the topic back to Torian's professors. By the time that third New Year's rolled around, all those sleepless nights had started to turn into something real. We'd secured a round of funding. We had real customers, real revenue, a small but mighty staff that believed in what we were building. I had quietly negotiated a buyout with my co-founder that left me majority owner and a few months later CEO. But none of that existed in my parents' mental picture. To them, I was good with numbers and married to my job, vaguely successful, but emotionally defective. Torian, on the other hand, was the one with potential. New Year's Eve that year, Chicago was wrapped in that kind of cold that sticks to your bones. I was in my apartment with the heating cranked up, sitting on the floor with my laptop on the coffee table. On one side of the screen, my dashboard showed real-time metrics. New accounts opening, dollars flowing, small businesses hitting their funding goals. On the other hand, my phone kept lighting up with photos from my parents' house. The family group chat buzzed with clinking glasses. Torian was in the center of everything. My mother's perfectly plated roast, gold streamers taped crookedly to the ceiling. I wasn't in a single frame. I wasn't even mentioned. That would have been just another lonely holiday. Except for one thing. 2 days earlier, my cousin Kaida had accidentally added me to a private family Facebook group. She probably thought I was already in it. I almost ignored the notification. I didn't need more digital proof that I was unofficially erased. But curiosity got the better of me. The first post that caught my eye was from my mother under a photo of Torian in a suit. She had written, "We're so proud of Torian. Once he lands this job at Bridgepoint, our worries are over." Saphira just doesn't get family the way he does. She chose her career. Torian chose us. There it was in black and white. Likes and heart emojis stacked underneath. The story they told about me when I wasn't around. I wasn't the daughter who had been wiring them money quietly for years when my father's consulting work dried up. I wasn't the kid who used to stay up late helping my mom grade papers. I was the one who chose career over family, as if those two things were mutually exclusive, and I had deliberately thrown them away. I didn't comment. I didn't DM her. I took a screenshot and saved it in a folder with a name I typed through tears, Families and Fires. Later that night, someone posted a shaky video from their New Year's toast. In the background, over clinking glasses, I heard my mother's voice clearly. Once Torian gets that position at Bridgepoint, he'll finally be where he belongs. Saphira should stay out of his way for once. My father laughed and added, as long as HR doesn't run into Liv, he'll be fine. That girl never could play nice with authority. The room chuckled. My brother raised his glass, soaking in the attention like sunlight. My name, my company, my imagined interference served as a joke. But not one of them knew that the logo on the wall of that big firm was mine. That the HR department they wanted to avoid reported directly to Leora, who in turn reported to me. That the authority I supposedly couldn't play nice with was now my own. I paused the video and just stared at the frozen picture. My parents were laughing. Torian, my brother, was smiling, and my mom's hand was resting on his shoulder like he belonged there. For a moment, it hurt a lot. My chest felt tight, and I could almost hear my heart beating in my ears. But then, slowly, a clear thought came into my mind, like a light turning on in a dark room. I didn't have to go to their dinner or ask to join them. I didn't have to beg for a seat at their table or try to convince them I belonged. Life had already made things right for me. My parents had been hoping Torian would get a special job somewhere else. They thought he needed help to win, that he needed someone else's luck. But that place, that job, that dream, they had built it for someone else, and it turned out that someone else was me. I closed the video and opened my computer. On the screen, I watched a small business in Detroit reach its goal for funding. Tiny confetti shapes exploded across the screen like fireworks. I imagined a family far away, cheering, hugging, and clapping because strangers believed in them and wanted them to succeed. Somewhere, their happiness was real, and it felt like the universe was telling me that the world could be fair, even when my family had not been. My own parents didn't know how closely their hopes and my choices were now connected. Have you ever thought about getting revenge? Like walking into a room, telling secrets, or demanding apologies. I had thought about it a lot. I had imagined it over and over, like a movie in my head. But then I realized something important. Sometimes revenge isn't needed. Life can give you the power without you having to fight or yell. Life had already handed me the kind of leverage I could never have planned. And I didn't even have to try. I couldn't sleep much after that. I kept seeing the video in my head. My mom smiling casually, my dad laughing in that smug way, Torian standing at the center of it all, looking proud. Morning came quickly, gray light from Chicago shining through my blinds. It felt cold, quiet, and heavy. But I knew today was not just another day. Today, my personal life and my professional power were going to collide, and I could feel it buzzing in the air like electricity. I showered, tied my hair back, and put on a black pantsuit that fit like armor. It made me feel ready for battle without needing a sword. At work, the building lobby felt different. It felt like stepping into a place that knew what was about to happen. Exciting. Powerful. Not just another office building, this was the place where everything I had worked for would meet everything my family thought they controlled. In the elevator, I saw my reflection in the shiny metal walls and almost laughed. I remembered the things my parents used to tell me when I was growing up. Saphira, stop trying to boss everyone. Nobody likes a girl who thinks she runs the room. And now here I am. I really did run the room. I ran the floor, the building, the money, and the decisions that mattered. My name was on the biggest door in the office, Saphira Lennox, Chief Executive Officer. Leora was waiting outside the conference room, her tablet in hand. Are you okay? She asked quietly. Her eyes scanned my face like she could see every emotion, every thought, every memory I was carrying. Only someone who had seen me cry alone at 2 a.m. over a laptop could know me this well. I found the Facebook posts, I said softly. They think Bridgepoint is just a big company. They think I'll ruin it for Torian out of spite. They don't even know I own the table he's desperate to sit at. Leora's jaw tightened. We don't owe him anything or them. We don't. I nodded. But I knew I owed myself something. I owed myself the chance to stop letting my family control my story. Inside the conference room, Vera, our HR director, was organizing interview papers. Vera glanced up at me and gave a knowing nod. They already knew Torian was my brother. They also knew I wanted the process to be fair, even if fairness meant showing him that the world didn't bend around him. "You sure you want to be in the room?" Vera whispered. "We can handle this without you." "No," I said firmly. "He has made decisions about where I'm allowed to exist for years. This time, I will decide if he belongs." A few minutes before the interview, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. "Good luck vibes for Torian today. This means a lot to us. Maybe if things go well, we can all be together again next New Year's. Don't make it awkward." I froze. No recognition that I was the one who had the real power here. Just another instruction, another way of telling me not to make them embarrassed. I locked the phone, slid it face down on the table, and took my seat at the head of the table. When Torian walked in, he didn't look at me first. He looked at Vera, at the other managers, at the sleek logo on the wall. He looked happy, ready to impress. To him, I was just his big sister who worked too much and cared too much about rules. He had no idea who I had become. "Before we begin," Vera said, "I'd like to introduce you to someone. Torian, this is our CEO, Saphira Lennox." Torian's head snapped toward me. Our eyes locked. His smile cracked, then vanished. If you've ever seen someone realize in real time that the person they dismissed is the one holding their fate, you know the look. It's a mix of terror, confusion, and the first spark of shame. You're the CEO?" Torian stammered. "Since when?" I kept my voice calm. "Officially about a year. But I've been quietly building this company for a lot longer than that." Vera cleared their throat and steered us back to the interview. "Torian, this is a panel interview. We'll be looking at your skills and how well you fit for a strategic operations manager role. Shall we begin?" He nodded. His usual confidence was gone. The brother who once told me I was too much to bring to family gatherings now sat across from me, his hands so tight that his knuckles turned white. At first, I stayed quiet. One manager asked him about leading a team under a tight deadline. Another asked him about his understanding of our product. His answers were smooth, polished, and shallow. He used fancy words, but they were empty, like he had read them from a textbook. They might have fooled someone else. Not me. I had seen those same tricks at our parents' kitchen table. "Can you walk us through a situation," I finally asked, "where you had to choose between protecting your own comfort and doing what was right for the group?" His eyes flicked to mine. There was a flash of recognition. We both knew exactly what I meant, even if no one else did. "I always try to do what's best for the team," he muttered. "Sometimes that means making hard choices," I pressed. "Even if it hurts someone." Vera gave me a quick look, a silent warning to be careful. I softened my tone just enough. "This role carries a lot of power. We need to know how you handle it." Torian swallowed hard. "Sometimes people just don't fit. You can't let one person ruin the mood for everyone else." That word mood made my blood boil. It was the same word my mom had texted me the first year they banned me. "You know how your moods are, Liv. We just want a peaceful night." I leaned forward slightly. "And if the person you are excluding is actually helping more than anyone else, working harder, carrying more responsibility, do you still leave them out just to keep everyone else comfortable?" There was silence. One manager jumped in with a question about conflict resolution, unaware of the landmine we were dancing around. Torian flailed, talking in circles about maintaining culture and harmony. The more he spoke, the clearer it became. He had never learned to separate our parents' approval from what was right. Finally, Vera turned a page. "Last question from me," they said. "Why Bridgepoint? Why this role?" Torian straightened in his chair, as if this answer had been rehearsed in the mirror many times. "Honestly," he said, "my family is counting on me. My parents have sacrificed so much. They worry about money. If I get this role, it changes everything for them. And I've heard this company is where people go when they want to work with the best. I also know someone who already works here, so I thought it would be a good fit." There it was. Not, "I want to grow," or "I've done the work," but "my family needs me to win." No recognition that I had been quietly wiring them money to cover medical bills and mortgage payments for years. They thought the lifeline came from my dad's bonus. I had let them believe that. "No more." "Thank you, Torian," I said, closing my notebook. He looked panicked. "Wait," he blurted. "Just tell me. Did I blow it because of all this? The family stuff?" Vera stepped in smoothly. "We will evaluate your candidacy on your skills, experience, and alignment with our values, like we do with every candidate." I held his gaze. "And our values," I added. are non-negotiable. Have you ever wanted revenge and justice at the same time and realized they might not be the same thing? He didn't wait for the official email. Of course he didn't. 2 hours later, there was a sharp knock on my apartment door. I knew it was him before I even looked through the peephole. Torian stood in the hallway, tie loosened, hair messy from where he had run his fingers through it 100 times. His usual confident posture was gone. He looked smaller, younger, and uncertain. "Can we talk?" he asked. For the first time in years, he sounded like he was asking for something, instead of telling me what I should do. I let him in. He paced my living room like it was a cage, his steps fast and uneven. "You set me up," he blurted. "You knew it was your company and you didn't say anything." "The job posting was public," I replied calmly. "You applied on your own. You were recommended through a recruiter." I recused myself from the early stages. HR wanted me to be in the room at the end because, well, I had waved my hand around like I owned the place. "This is my company," I said firmly, looking him straight in the eyes. "You could have told me," he shouted back, his voice cracking a little with frustration and fear. "All those dinners, Mom and Dad talking about how this job would save our family, how I just had to not mess it up. And you didn't say anything," he yelled, pacing the room. My jaw tightened as I listened. I could feel my hands ball into fists, but I didn't move. I wanted to stay calm, even if my whole body felt like it was on fire. "You mean the dinners I wasn't invited to?" "Those dinners?" I asked, my voice quiet but sharp. He stopped pacing. His face changed, and for a moment, I saw the guilt flicker across it. "That was different," he muttered, almost too softly for me to hear. "We were just trying to keep things calm." I didn't answer right away. I walked slowly to the shelf, feeling every step. I grabbed my laptop and opened a folder I had labeled in a weak moment. Families and Fires. Inside were screenshots and videos I had saved over time, things that reminded me of what had really happened. I showed him a screenshot of Mom's Facebook post, where she had written glowing things about him and never once mentioned me. Then, I played a video from the New Year's toast, where I had been left out of the celebration. I turned the screen toward him and hit play. There we were, our parents in the background. Mom was talking about how amazing his future at Bridgepoint would be, while Dad told the room that I should stay out of his way. My own name was tossed around like I was a problem, a shadow they didn't want to notice. Torian watched the screen, color draining from his face. His eyes were wide, and his mouth opened slightly as if he wanted to say something but couldn't. "They didn't mean that," he said quickly. His voice wavered. "They didn't. They meant every word." I cut in, my voice stronger than I felt. I felt my chest tighten as I watched him try to process what I had just shown him. "When you told them it was you or me at New Year's, they chose you. When you needed an ethics assignment written, they said I was selfish for saying no. And now, when you decided this job would fix everything, they assumed I was the one who might ruin it. Do you see the pattern?" I paused to let him take it in. His hands fell to his lap. The only constant in every version of their story was that I was the problem. Always me. The sister who had to be careful, small, quiet. The one whose voice was too loud, whose success was a threat. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. "I thought you were just dramatic," he admitted softly, almost whispering. "Mom said you always twist things to make yourself the victim. Dad said you didn't understand how much pressure I'm under. They said you'd be fine because you always land on your feet." I let him say it, let the words hang in the room. He wasn't wrong about me landing on my feet, but they never asked how many times I had fallen, how many times I had scraped my knees and bruised my elbows and stayed silent just to keep everyone else happy. "Why didn't you ever tell me you were the CEO?" he whispered, lifting his head slightly to look at me. His voice was small, unsure. "Why keep it a secret?" "Because when I tried to tell you I was drowning, you told me not to ruin the mood," I said quietly, my hands gripping the edges of the laptop. "Because the last time I tried to share a win, you rolled your eyes and said, 'We get it, Saphira. You love your job.' It was easier to stay small in your world than to keep shrinking myself to fit at that dinner table, pretending everything was fine." He stared at the paused video, at our parents raising glasses to him with my company's name on their lips. "Are you going to tank my chances?" he finally asked, almost scared. "Is this your way of getting back at me?" I shook my head slowly. "No," I said. "I'm not going to sabotage you. But I'm also not going to lie for you. You weren't prepared. You leaned on your charm and on our parents' expectations. You talked about what this job would do for them, not about what you've done for yourself. That's not a CEO's decision. That's a child's decision." He swallowed hard, his throat moving up and down. "So that's it. I just lose. Sometimes losing is the only thing that forces you to grow, I replied, my voice steady. Here's what I will do. I'll tell HR the truth. That you have potential, but you're not ready for the role you applied for. If, and only if, you're willing to start lower, actually learn, and stop expecting shortcuts, I'll support you for a junior position. No guarantees, no special treatment. You'd answer to a manager who is not me. You'll earn every inch. He looked stunned, sitting there with his mouth slightly open. That feels like a punishment, he said slowly, almost like he was testing the words. It's not punishment, I said firmly. It's reality. For the first time in your life, you'd be standing on your own feet, not on our parents' stories. He was quiet for a long time. I could see him thinking, really thinking, in a way he hadn't before. Finally, he asked, voice small, almost afraid. And what about New Year's? Do you ever want to come back? I thought about Mom's texts, Dad's laugh, and the empty chair that was never set for me. I remembered the way it felt to be invisible, left out, always the girl who had to smile and pretend it didn't hurt. I want a family that doesn't require me to disappear to keep the peace, I said. If you and they can't offer that, then my answer is no. Have you ever realized that the revenge you really need isn't watching them suffer, but finally refusing to suffer for them? That's what I had learned. 6 months later, Bridgepoint's lobby looked different again. Our logo was bigger, shining on the glass walls. The number of employees had doubled. Our Series C funding announcement had just gone public, and a glossy magazine profile about me had appeared. My face was on the cover. It talked about my careful choices, my leadership, and my complex relationship with risk. But it didn't mention sitting alone on New Year's while my family toasted my brother's future at my expense. Torian took the junior role I had offered him. To his credit, he didn't quit when he realized the work was boring, unglamorous. Spreadsheets, late nights, and being told no by people who didn't care that he had been the golden child. He reported to a manager who was fair but firm. Leora kept me updated in broad strokes. He's stubborn, she said once. But he's learning. For the first time, when something goes wrong, he doesn't immediately blame someone else. My parents, on the other hand, did not adapt gracefully. When Torian told them he hadn't gotten the manager job, my mother called me furious. How could you humiliate your own brother like that? She demanded. Do you know how it looked to everyone when he didn't get the position? For a moment, my old instinct flared up. Explain, justify, apologize. Then I remembered the empty chair, the screenshots, the way my name had been a punchline in that New Year's video. Mom, I said evenly, Torian didn't get a job he wasn't qualified for. He did get a job that will let him grow if he chooses to. That's not humiliation. That's mercy. We're family, she snapped. Family helps each other. Family doesn't ban a daughter from dinner for saying no to cheating, I replied. The family doesn't talk about her like she's a problem to work around while they plan their son's career in a company she built. You helped Torian. You never once offered to help me. Silence, then very softly. We didn't think you needed it. That was your mistake, and you've been paying for it ever since, whether you admit it or not. The next New Year's, they invited me again. A group text like always. It would mean a lot if we could all be together again. Clean slate. I stared at the message for a long time. I thought about the girl who begged to be included, who twisted herself into knots to be less intense, easier, smaller. She was gone. In her place was a woman who had built a company, weathered investors, made payroll for hundreds of employees, and finally believed her own worth. I typed back, I'm not coming this year. I'm open to rebuilding, but not at a table where I was a ghost for years. If you want a relationship with me, it has to happen in the light, not just when you need something from me or my company. I hit send before I could soften it. That night, I didn't refresh their photos. Instead, I hosted my own New Year's in my apartment. Leora came, a few friends from the office, even a couple of small business owners whose dreams Bridgepoint had funded. The lights of Chicago blinked below us like tiny promises. At midnight, we clinked glasses on my balcony. I could feel the warmth of friendship, of choice, of people who really saw me. Torian texted me a photo from his parents' table. One empty chair at the end. No caption, just that. A few minutes later, another text arrived. I told them what I did. About the ultimatum, about the assignment, about how I used you. They didn't take it well, but it was time. I'm sorry. Live for all of it. I believed him, not because of the words, but because of the empty chair. Because he had finally chosen to let them feel the absence they had forced on me. Thank you, I replied. That's between you and them. My life doesn't revolve around their approval anymore. Neither should yours, he wrote back. Maybe next year we have our own dinner, just us. No ultimatums. I smiled. The kind of slow, quiet smile that comes when a wound starts to scar over. Not raw anymore, but still part of your story. Maybe, I answered, if you bring dessert. Here's the thing nobody tells you about family revenge. The real victory isn't watching them crumble. It's standing so solid in who you are that they can't move you around the board anymore. It's choosing your own table, your own traditions, your own peace, and letting them live with the echo of the place you used to sit. What about you? If you were in my shoes, would you ever sit at their New Year's table again? Or would you build a new one and let them decide whether they're worthy of a seat?